Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk, a weekly podcast covering cryptocurrency, business, and technology topics from all over the world. My name is Mtambo, and in today's episode, we are going to discuss the network state versus fractal localism with a special guest and a longtime friend, Jakub Simek, who is a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and a grant manager at Slovak Aid Agency. First of all, if you're enjoying listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, please subscribe, like this episode, leave a comment below, and turn on the notification bell for more new episodes. Well, let's get started. Hi, Jakub. How are you doing since last time?
Hi, Jessica. I'm fine. Enjoying the mild autumn weather here in Slovakia, Bratislava. So just spending some time with my family. Yeah, being on a parental leave actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm doing well here in Kenya also, Voi. And yeah, it's getting warmer from our side. And maybe we're expecting maybe some rains, short rains. So yeah, but everything's going well here.
Nice. I
Yeah.
heard you are cooking. So what are you cooking?
I was cooking yams and beef stew.
Nice. Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start it. Let's get started. Yeah, last time we discussed about the network state, that the review that you wrote on the network state book, and yeah, as today, as I have introduced myself or the podcast, we'll be going to discuss the network state versus the fractal localism. So this is an article also wrote by Jakub Simek, and yeah, so today we are going to discuss about that. And in his article, or I can see, and from what I read, you also wrote that from seeing like a state of, from seeing like a state to learning like a machine, this is like Scala Politica is about fractal localism and a concept coined by Taleb. So can you explain to me maybe that concept by Taleb?
Okay, so fractal. Okay, Nassim Taleb is like a unique writer and thinker, mostly about risk, and he applies his thinking in various domains. But he's like very good at statistics, but kind of like a modern philosopher. He's also a bit of a troll online on Twitter. But yeah, he's a special guy, based in the US, I guess New York, and but originally from Lebanon. So, and he has this tiny book called Scala Politica, like. It was called Principia Politica, but he had to change the name because it was already taken. And he introduces their fractal localism. And I want to compare this concept with Balaji, Srinivasan's book, The Network State, which because they're kind of similar. Okay, and so the fractal means like self-similar. Actually, fractals, Africans discovered fractals like a couple of 100 years before Europeans. So it's and they had some like villages and architecture resembling this fractal, like self-similar kind of nature. And fractal, in other words, also means like scale-free. Which is like it looks the same at any scale, so it's like kind of you can zoom in, but it looks always the same. It's like a cauliflower. There is like this special cauliflower. When you look at it, it's like the small pieces of cauliflower look like the big cauliflower. So that's like the fractal word there. It's also kind of like it means that it's possible to scale, to grow in scale. And localism, it's like a concept of yeah, getting back to the roots, or like kind of taking care of your like local neighborhood, or like trying to be as decentralized as possible, or as reasonable, kind of like this. But Taleb in his tiny book describes it like further, like what he means by these, like what does it mean for him. So I just like explain the words a bit, but it's kind of similar to the network state in a way that you could have like startup societies, like maybe just us two can start one. Then you can have like network unions around some moral innovation, or network archipelagos, or even like network states, some bigger ones. So but these structures could like resemble each other or be very similar, no matter what's the scale. Like it can be 10 people or 10,000, but the structure and could be somehow similar, you know. Yeah, yeah, that's like a kind of general, uh, very quickly. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I also read that you're comparing, or you wrote about taking technology and culture scale governance. Um, I don't know, this is from Taleb, political book, or also you're comparing both with the Network State book by Balaji.
Mhm. Okay, right. So maybe just going back to the still the fractal localism. So Taleb, he kind of opposes his concept of fractal localism to two things that he considers being opposite. One is abstract universalism. So it's kind of just like it's like Kantian universalism, kind of like taking everyone as one big human family, but like just like not seeing the differences between various groups, various tribes, cultures, but it's like trying to be just like everyone be, let's say, we all are just, let's say, some consumers or some kind of members of like one big global I don't know, polity or group. And the second thing is like absorbing nationalism. So it's like again, not everyone. I mean, okay, nationalism was great, as we also discussed, and it's still great. But it again can lose some nuances, can be lost there. So like even under like one nation, which is fine, there are various like subgroups, subcultures, and these shouldn't be lost or like erased or something like that. So that's like two points by Taleb. Like again, just to repeat, like he's like he posits this fractal localism against abstract universalism, and also against absorbing monolithic nationalism. And so back to your question, like, okay, technology is like one way how to scale society. So we also discussed last time that these nation states, they arise thanks to printing press as being an innovation from the 1400. But then in the 1600, there was this 30-year-old war in Europe. In the 1800, you had the Napoleonic Wars, and so it took centuries, but the printing press was like a radical innovation that plus literacy, that enabled literacy as well, and it enabled also propaganda, but also kind of learning of languages, and it helped to foment these modern kind of actually new nations like France or Italy. So they were like the Italy was unified out of many like small principalities and like small kind of city states. Okay, this is technology, and then Taleb he kind of observes that actually, for example, that you cannot scale morality or politics that much. That, for example, on a large scale, you should kind of, let's say, on a family scale, you could be kind of like behave quite differently than, let's say, on a tribe scale, and then on a national scale, like you have different kind of rules and different kind of moral rules. So like within family, you kind of share a lot. But let's say if you are on some national or federal level, you kind of just like it's more transactional. But like so basically Taleb talks about like you can be it's just like a funny example, but it's from the US. You could be like a libertarian on a federal level. At the same time, you could be like a Republican on a states level, like a Democrat on a county level, and socialist on like a commune level, or like city something level, and like even communist in your own family and tribe, you know. So it's like you could share, and you don't keep track on who paid who, like in the family or something, but like it doesn't scale to the national state. So like talking about politics like without scale, it's kind of it's a mistake according to Taleb. But against this, or kind of trying to not question, but like a kind of this, I read that actually maybe AI could scale again, like it could make some kind of polities, or some kind of like political. So this is what Balaji talks about or writes about in his book, when he says like in China they might be able to make a pencil, kind of meaning like AI and robotics could transform supply chains, and it could they could make some countries much more independent, and even like central planning might work thanks to AI on a bigger scale than before. So that's just like a kind of interesting question. Like, what about technology? What about like AI, crypto, and social? If these technologies, what new polities and societies could they create?
I saw also in your article under the subtitle Startup Societies Scale Moral Innovations, you said or you thought that Balaji intends to let 1,000 startup societies bloom, and he sees them as the new society as a service, or SaaS. What do you think about that?
Oh, okay, so yeah, this is like this bottom-up approach as opposed to the top-down. So it's not like one ideology or one kind of rules, like set of many rules that you need to follow or something, but it's actually, it could be just you, like one founder of a startup society. And then the next step, as we also discussed last time, is the network union, which organizes collective calls, collective action, or calls for action. And if you manage to create like a highly aligned community, Balaji defines it as let's say, if you can manage to pull off 100 calls to action in 100 days, and like close to 100% of your members reply, let's say retweet something, or get involved in this call to action, then this is like a proof that you have a highly aligned community. And the next step is like crowdfunding some land or some real estate. So that's the network archipelago. And and then there is like an online, or not online, but on-chain census. And the next step, or the last step, is the network state that gets some diplomatic recognition or something like. Yeah, I mean, eventually. But to get into the network state is something like Microsoft or Apple, or Google. So like to get into this kind of like giant success with diplomatic recognition, you need maybe 1,000 startup societies or something like that. So well, I heard Balaji speak at some in some podcast that he sees like he wants to make or help or maybe in this kind of ballpark like or this kind of magnitude, so maybe around not just tens or hundreds but around thousands or maybe it could be thousand startup societies, and out of them maybe one one or two or something is network states might emerge in 10 years. So that's kind of like his goal. Yeah.
Okay. You
And there's 26 or 30 or something now. If you go to the networkstate.com / dashboard. Yeah, we can try it even now, but then you will find like around 30 examples of like very early stage like startup societies.
Okay. Yeah, I actually saw that, and it's very impressive about it. You also wrote about skinning in the game and filtering, and in your views, you think like Taleb in Scala Politica mentioned that skin in the game is not only about symmetries of risk sharing, but also about filtering of bad actors that exist in the pool. What did you mean by that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he mentions there because like many people got this. He like popularized this concept to have a skin in the game, meaning like to have some equity stake in let's say in some project. And if that project fails, then you also feel it. So you have like some ownership, but you also feel it like you are not like a free rider, but you get hurt. So like a good example about like what he means by symmetry is like okay, you are let's say when you are driving, then everybody, okay, there are many reckless drivers, but there are not as many accidents as one would think. And that's because if you hit another car, you get also hit. So that's like the symmetry, you know, like if you crash someone, your car also gets crushed. So people still they're being reckless, but they're still kind of also being careful at the same time because they don't want to destroy their own car. So there's like the symmetry. If you hit some another car or something, your car might your car might get hit as well. And but it doesn't. But okay, if it's like some small animal or something, your car might not get hit. So maybe you are not as careful with the small animal. Hitting or not hitting the small animal because the symmetry is broken, you know, like you feel like more powerful and your car will not get hit. And this is just a metaphor for, let's say, if you are a manager of some bank and you get a lot of bonuses over the years, but let's say then there is a financial crisis, like the great financial crisis, and the bank needs a bailout. But and from the state as it happened in 2008, but you don't need to return, and it happened again. But some bankers, they didn't return their bonuses, so they like didn't have the skin in the game. You know, like during the good years, they got all these rewards, all these bonuses, but in the linear or in the bad year when the recession and the great recession, a financial crisis hit, they didn't need to return those bonuses for mismanagement or something. So that's like the example where the skin in the game is missing. And what Taleb means that it's equally important to have symmetry, but it's also equally important to filter bad actors from from the marketplace. So I just connected to what Balaji talks a lot about, and it's kind of like smart regulators, like for example Uber, Airbnb, Lyft, etc. They have this like 5-star rating, and Balaji explains that it's a big difference between the 1-star rating and 0-star rating. So the 1-star rating are like folks who try hard, but maybe their products are of low quality, let's say on Amazon or something. But the 0-star, it's like these can be like very sophisticated, but like bad actors that try to cheat people or something. So you want to filter bad actors. So, but Taleb mentions something similar also, like in the metaphor of or example of like drivers. So the bad actors get filtered out, the bad drivers get filtered out because they crash, or their license their licenses are taken away by the police or something. So it's not only about symmetry, but also like filtering bad actors. And Balaji also talks about this point.
Oh, that's nice. You also said in your article that, or you also wrote in your article that Balaji says that in the last decade, the goal was to get everyone online, and this decade will be about getting everyone aligned. Can you expand on this to me?
Yeah, right. So like we have experienced it together, like in Voi in Kenya or around Kenya, and the how the internet penetration grew quickly thanks to mobile phones and smartphones, and even mobile banking was born in Kenya even before smartphones. So even before we could pay with mobile phones, you could pay with mobile phones in Kenya, and then in other countries, M-Pesa even got scaled or to some European countries like Albania. And so, but this was all about mobile, became a convergence device. It converged like many like radio, from radio to torch to video recorder to all these gadgets that in the 90s they cost a fortune, but and we talked about it last time, but it all converged into mobile phone. And one thing, in case of Kenya, you didn't need to have a credit card or debit card, you just could use a mobile phone. And then with smartphones, also the internet coverage and internet penetration grew rapidly. So and this is the same for us, and like in Slovakia or Eastern Europe, but this is the same in India, South America, and elsewhere. So like billions of people got online. There are still some billions to go, but that was in the last decade. And in this decade, it will, at least according to Balaji, the key question will be if everybody, not everybody, but if many people can get aligned around some common purpose and goals and form like communities. So like communities where there is a group dashboard and people are progressing together. So like leveling up, learning new things, getting like healthier, wealthier, and learn, and smarter or something together. So it's like instead of bowling alone, that's like Putnam's kind of book, Bowling Alone, that he observed that many communities are broken, or people are even going bowling alone in the US. Now we are like posting together. But current social media like Twitter are like mostly about entropy. which Balaji explains, like when you open Twitter, you see like 20 different links and they are not connected together, and it's kind of like entropy, like going to many places, like from sports to show business to politics, and it's kind of like that's like what he calls entropy, and the opposite of it is work. So it's like some kind of focused time and focused effort where you actually do something and you feel like you achieved something. You know, like we are over-indexed on a novelty, and we love like new things, like news. But what he calls about news, you can use, so like something that you learn and you can like prove that you acquired new skills, or you got richer or wealthy, or you earned some money thanks to these new skills that you learned. So and getting everybody aligned, that's again just referring to his notion of highly aligned communities, like these network unions, like the second step after the startup society. And this is proven quantitatively by common calls to action, or like collective action. So like, for example, people are retweeting, like close to 100% of those members are retweeting some review, or helping one of the members. Let's say it could be some guild of graphic designers, and one of the members got into some trouble, and the rest of them are rest of the, let's say there are 100 graphic designers and 99 are helping the one guy who or girl who got into some problem online or offline. And this is like an example of very highly aligned community. So that would be like interesting goal, and it is like an interesting goal for like these 10 years.
Okay. Balaji's idea of the network state and its intermediate forms, like network unions, can be seen as vehicles to make both alignment and exit radically easier. But Taleb says neither minority nor majority rules. Can you explain how these two statements relate to each other, or you can expound more about them?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Balaji is very focused on exit. It's like he's referencing often a book called Loyalty, Exit, and the third thing is like, wait, Voice. Okay, so Loyalty, Voice, and Exit. I think the guy is called Hirschman who wrote it. So you could, voice is like you vote, let's say in elections, or you vote in some company, something, employee, I don't know, vote of something. Loyalty is like you are being loyal to like the current, let's say, employer, or the current city where you live. Depends like what you are patriotic about, like it could be a city, a company, a country, like what are you the most patriotic about, or tribalistic about, or something. So that's like the loyalty, and it's very important. Also voice is important, but if, let's say, the voice doesn't work, or if the loyalty is kind of, the trust is broken, then exit is like the next option. Like you can leave to another country or to another company. As a customer, you can leave, let's say, Microsoft for Google, or vice versa. And the ease of exit, it's kind of it's like, let's say, if you have some cults or something, like they often like entrap members, or let's say some not unethical companies, like they try to entrap the members, or make them addicted to something, like to the service, let's say, imagine gambling, for example, or something. And what's the opposite of that? It's something like where the exit is as easy as possible, or as easy as optimal, or something like that. So yeah, to make the exit, so imagine, like, I don't know, Balaji talks about like horizontal build out of buildings, like Burning Man, like, you know, it's like a festival where they're able to build like 50,000 of units, like it could be tents or some small houses or something. They're quite creative. But he calls like we should maybe have some festival called the Builderman, meaning like maybe build quickly some modular houses, like using some prefab houses, something like that. And so this is just like one example of exit, you know. So for example, if your network state was I mean, your startup society was good at this, like building these prefab houses, but for example, they could have some kind of arrangement that you could like pay down, or you could own such a such a like modular or prefab house. And it's just an example, like a brainstorming now. But so the ease of exit here would mean that you could like pack your house again and move somewhere else to another community, like another startup society or networking or something like that, let's say in another city or a completely different country. But like Balaji says, like mobile is making us more mobile. So like many friends don't know, even like if you live, let's say in Bratislava or in Voi or in Nairobi, because you are in touch with them online. And now after COVID, remote work, and if the virtual reality takes off in these other technologies, make exit more possible and more and crypto, of course, more viable, more possible. So that's like one option. And about alignment, actually, I'm not. I wrote it there, but it's not. I'm not sure. Like it might be, we might need some new technologies, like for like a new Discord or something. That's actually I wanted to talk to you out of context of this discussion, that maybe we should also learn Urbit, or like learn more about it. So that could be maybe something like Web3 Discord or something. So but maybe these technologies are not there yet. Or in VR, we wanted to learn this like gel app, something like VR for work, or like to create our own like VR community or something. I checked it today and it doesn't work at the website, but anyhow, sorry, that's just like off topic. But again, back to Taleb and minority and majority rules. So majority rule. What he means by like no majority rules means like the majority shouldn't oppress the minority. Let's say if I don't know, if you have like a majority religion or majority, I don't know, political party or something like in a country A, like let's say in Slovakia, we have like over 60% are Catholics or Christians, and they shouldn't, let's say, oppress some minority, let's say, I don't know, evangelicals or newborn Christians or Muslims or whatever, because it's like no majority rule. Like, okay, they are the majority, but they shouldn't like misuse it to I don't know, to like oppress some others. But what Taleb explains, and it's quite interesting, that you could also have like the minority rule, and he explains it in a way like the most intolerant wins. That's like, and it's quite interesting, because you could have actually a very tiny minority that controls the whole country for decades. Like for example, in Northern Ireland, you had this conflict, and you had this like IRA, like this Irish Republican Army, and they were like a couple of hundred people only, but they like kind of because they were quite intolerant or something of other of their rivals or something. They could keep like the whole country, kind of have a strong influence over the whole country, and there were maybe only a couple of hundred people. So that's like the minority. And this minority also shouldn't impose their will on others. So it's not just like majority can like oppress the rest of, let's say, the country or society, but it could be also like a very small minority. And I mean, I can also just to finish off this idea, I can state also like a positive or neutral kind of example, like at least in Slovakia, but it's in many countries, even most countries, but actually even in, and of course also in Kenya. But if you go to a restaurant, mostly you get also like a vegetarian option, you know, or you could eat like in Slovakia. Actually, it's not always true, because you have like some they call it like vegetarian option, but there is a ham, let's say it's like cheese and fries with some fried cheese, but they put the ham there and it shouldn't be there, so it's not vegetarian obviously, but they call it vegetarian. Sometimes it happens. But the idea or the question is like, okay, you have, let's say, maybe only 5% of people are vegetarian, but in every restaurant you get a vegetarian option. So how is that? And Taleb explains that it's again this asymmetry of like they're very intolerant, but now this is more like not in a negative term. But the vegetarians, for example, the non-vegetarians, they can eat also the vegetarian option, but it's asymmetric, so it's not the other way around. So the vegetarian will never eat meat, but the guys and girls who eat meat, they can also sometimes have the vegetarian option, where they are fine, and maybe they will they, they will say something or what, but so this is like this asymmetry, and it's quite interesting. Well, let's say that the minority that has only it's only 5%, let's say, and it can impose like on it can kind of scale to every restaurant, like it has also a vegetarian lunch menu option or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sorry, and just to wrap it up, so Taleb says like nor majority rule nor minority rule, meaning like it shouldn't, like the majority shouldn't oppress the rest or others, and also like this intolerant minority shouldn't oppress others. And this is checked by the exit, so it's very fine. It's okay to have even like a vegetarian startup society or network state. It's interesting. Also, Balaji talks about like keto, kosher kind of option, like no sugar society. It's very fine, but like the idea is like, but they shouldn't impose their will on others. So it's like if they want to have this kind of society, it's fine, and it's actually healthy. I guess both of these options are very healthy, but they shouldn't like impose it, let's say, on their neighborhood, like going around and tell other people who are not their members they should become vegetarians as well, or they shouldn't cook meat or something. Sorry, you're getting hungry with your beef.
Yeah, I remember last time when I was in Slovakia, actually I ate halushki. So is halushki also vegetarian, or is part on the other side?
Yeah. It's well, you put a piece, you fry some ham and you put it like on top, like a bacon actually. So without the bacon, it's vegetarian. But if you put, but yeah, this is actually also the example with the cheese. You know, they present it as vegetarian, but often there is already some bacon. So you have to, like, if you are vegetarian, you have to tell them like, but please don't put the bacon there. Like, just don't be stupid. Yeah, but halushki, I wonder if you liked it, because I think most people will not like it. It has some special cheese which is a bit strong, has some strong taste. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But
maybe
you
have a
still
different,
remember it.
yeah, maybe I have a different taste, but I liked it. I can still remember.
Okay,
That's the
cool. So
only food
maybe
I
you're
can.
the only one, because I think David didn't like it, and some other people and some teachers we know, like they didn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it was a nice meal, yeah, and I always remember it. That's the only food I can remember. Anyway,
Okay, you have to come again and have some other other. But actually, I ate it today. It's
uh,
funny. Yeah, it's after a long time. But
oh,
my
nice.
mother-in-law prepared it like for us yesterday, and we had some leftover. So we had it today again.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay, let's uh come to
You
an
wanna
end.
wrap it up or something?
Yes, we wrap it with the last point on your article that you wrote. A shining city. Maybe you can combine these two. A shining city on a hill will be in the cloud, and also you say that a special innovation zone will unlock trillions. Could you or can you explain this to me?
Okay, so just to keep it short, we will try. We can expand maybe next time on some of these points. But okay, so Balaji talks about like how the internet is to the US, what the Americas were to the UK. So it was like the opening of a new frontier. So, and he also discusses like how the frontier, like the Wild West or something, close at the beginning of the last century, like in 1890 or something like that, and it reopens with the new frontier in 1991, like with when the internet became actually commercial, and it became the commerce was allowed on internet, so you could set up a .com, which is a commerce, yeah, .com domain, and anyone just like us, we created Wazesha with just like out of nothing. You could create Wazesha dot, okay, we are co, because com was taken already, but you could create any domain you want, and you can set up a shop, and you can create a nice domain, a website, and or a domain for your startup society or whatever. And this is like the new frontier that reopened after 100 years. And it's very important that there is a new frontier, because it allows for like win-win relationships, so people can trade together, they can learn together, and they can get wealthier together. So it's not just like win-lose relationships, like you have something and I want to take it from you, but it's like win-win, and there is new frontier. So it's like it's like abundance of new, they are not limited, anyone can create their own domain, so of course the domain names, if it's taken, you have to come up with a new one. Okay, so, and this is like now the internet and the cloud and the Web3 and something with like new frontiers. Mm, and okay, uh, uh, and these new frontiers are important. And why they could unlock $3 trillion? Okay, because internet itself, like by becoming commercial in 1991, like the internet existed like decades before, like in the 80s or even sooner, but at least for 10 years before, right? But it was like academic and military network, and the commerce was not allowed there. And by just like going like one bit, like from not like from 0 to 1, it's like from not allowed to, like, you just erase the not, and the commerce is allowed here. So the commercial internet was born, like, and and mm, but there are no property rights on internet, or it's difficult now, like, for example, you have your Twitter account or your Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and it can be taken from you, like in communist China, like in the 80s or 70s. in the 70s before Deng Xiaoping, and he came up with this like there is this like story that Balaji talks a lot about. Like there were some farmers who kept some grain and they were discovered, and then they were kind of put on trial, or even like some people wanted to put them, I don't know, execute them or what, because actually entrepreneurship was like punishable by death in communist China in the 70s. But then Deng Xiaoping saw like, okay, they were quite successful by keeping their grain and like kind of being entrepreneurial about it, parts of their grain, and like getting like really like bountiful harvest. So he was like, okay, let's maybe scale this experiment, and he started like we in China in the era of Deng Xiaoping came up with these special innovation zones, you know, like sorry, not innovation, special economic zones. That was their idea, like in Shenzhen. And elsewhere. So they created like a special economic zone, and there were like other like some rules were different there, or actually you could do business there. It was quite a different, but actually it was again just like a moral innovation, where let's say profit was deemed bad in the communist China, like in the mainland China, but like in the special economic zone, the profit was deemed good. So it's like just again just like one flip, but this flip actually got China to where it is now. And it was maybe 100 trillion over the years, you know, like from the late 70s until like 2020. The GDP growth and everything, compared to like counterfactual, it's like it could be something around like tens of trillions, even 100 trillion, maybe 100 trillion dollars, like of wealth created thanks to like this idea of deregulation, or changing the something that was not allowed, like to make profit, into allowed. And startup societies and sorry, network states, like the final stage of this concept by Balaji, they should also be like about like new regulation and smart regulation in areas like longevity, like expanding the not just lifespan but also the health span of people. And this could easily create trillions again, or just lots of billions, even trillions, because expanding life expectancy and expanding healthy life years of life, again on a global scale, or it can bring some innovation. Then if they scale globally, it can be worth trillions. So like example could be like a simple example could be, let's say, a special innovation zone where there are self-driving cars are allowed here, you know. So, and these self-driving cars, if they are better than human drivers on average, and they're allowed there, so they prevent a couple of like, let's say they can prevent, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of traffic road accidents and traffic deaths annually. And you can calculate like how much money is saved by it, not just in medical bills but like in like economic activity. And it's kind of sounds like kind of grim or something, but it's economists are kind of used to do these calculations. It's like it's called like statistical value of life, which is just really just statistical, but for the insurance purposes or something. But again, you could calculate like these technical innovations, how much money it can save. That's just like one example, but some medical interventions like in longevity, accelerating the invention of new medicines. This could bring in lots of money. Yeah, and Web3 as well. You know, it's also like making Web3 legal. it's like bringing property rights to the internet, and that's again like the Chinese example after like China after Deng Xiaoping, when they made in some areas commerce and entrepreneurship legal. So this is and people could own their their produce and their creation. So this could be the same like Web3 for creators. So they could own their platforms and their creation. So yeah, that's like unlock worth billions and maybe even trillions. Yeah.
Oh wow. Thank you, Jakub, for honoring my invitation again to Mtambo's This podcast. It is really a good discussion. I always have a good discussion with you. And
thank you, Duke. So I know you are hungry, so have a enjoy your meal. And thanks for a great discussion and questions. Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for joining us, and I hope the episode was beneficial to you. Please give this episode video a thumbs up and rate it on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast. And be sure to come back next week, Monday, for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.